Hello, my name is Lilly MacIntyre, and this is my Life of Mammals project on Colocos and their life in the canopy. So, I am going to briefly touch on an introduction to Colocos. Then I'm going to talk about their method of locomotion. I'm going to compare that method of locomotion to a non-mammalian species. I'm going to answer the question, do they compete with one another? And then I'm going to end with conclusion and just a small word on conservation. So, Colocos, that's this little guy on the right. They are part of the order Dermoptera, and there are currently only two living species of Colocos. There's the Galeopteris variegatus and the Cynocephalus volans. They're commonly known as flying lemurs, however, they are not flying lemurs, they are Colocos. They are known for their ability to glide. They're commonly mistaken for bats because they look quite similar. They are found only in Southeast Asia. Within that, their habitat includes rainforests as well as plantations and gardens. Their diet includes leaves, plant shoots, and fruit. And right now that they are currently in a pretty good conservation status. So here is a colugo gliding. You may think, oh, that's a bat. No, it's not. It's a colugo. They look very similar, and that is because of their patagium. So their patagium is this membrane here that stretches all the way from their shoulders to their digits to the tips of their tail. And this maximizes the surface area for gliding. It's a very thin membrane that allows them to catch winds and soar somewhat. And they can glide up to 200 meters, but I'm sure that they could glide further. That's just what they've been recorded to glide. So this diagram in the top right shows that a little bit better. You can see that that membrane is not attached necessarily to their skeletal structure. And yeah, that allows them to glide. The Colocos use this method of locomotion to navigate the forest canopy as they glide tree to tree. They hardly ever come to the forest floor, and that's because they do so well amongst the leaves and branches that once they get to the ground, they're not actually quite fast. So the baby Colocos are born up within the canopy, which is interesting, and they will remain with their mother, usually on their membrane, until that they are able to glide on their own, in which case then they will leave. So, Colocos are mammals, but they are just one of the approximate 60 mammal species that can glide. Some other common gliding mammals include flying squirrels at the top and sugar gliders at the bottom. The gliding locomotion is shared amongst these 60-some species, and initially researchers believed that arboreal animals would glide to conserve energy, because that's what it appeared. But when you take into consideration the energy that they actually have to use in order to climb a tree, there isn't a huge benefit. So in order to glide, they can't just take off straight off the ground like, say, a crow or a bird could. They actually have to start up really tall. So they have to climb a tree and then glide off of that. And so why do they glide if it's not to conserve energy? Well, it's because it's so much faster. It is much faster to glide tree to tree than start up in a tree, climb down the tree, across the forest floor, up another tree, down the tree, across the forest floor, and so on. It is much quicker to just go from tree to tree and stay relatively high up on the trees. So mammals aren't the only ones that glide. Reptiles do, which I found bizarre because you wouldn't think a reptile would have this similar stretchy membrane, but apparently they do. Draco lizards. This is a Draco genus that includes around 45 species. These lizards have the ability to glide. They are commonly referred to as flying lizards, as well as gliding lizards, flying dragons, and gliding dragons. They are found throughout Southeast Asia and Southwest India. Their diet includes insects, which is usually ants and termites, but they will also eat other bugs. And they're very common and currently in a pretty good conservation status. Here is just one of Draco lizards flying. You can see it's quite different shape than the Colobos. That's because their morphology is very different. You can see here the patagium off the Draco lizard, actually off their body. The patagium is supported and controlled by elongated ribs and muscles. This is very different than the Colobos. You can see it stays kind of central to their body. It doesn't stretch out from their shoulders to their digits and across to their tail. It stays more towards the belly of the animal. And the ribs that are elongated and where it comes off of differs from Draco species, so I can't speak too much for that, but it's usually about the same as that diagram there. And this patagium allows for Draco lizards to glide tree to tree, similar to the Colobos, but they also use their patagium to communicate with one another, which is a little bit different, as the Colobos usually use sound frequencies that are similar to bats. The habitat and lifestyle of Draco lizards are a bit different. They are also highly territorial, as are the Colobos. The males have never been seen on the ground. However, females do come down to the ground to lay their eggs, and then they will also revisit those eggs as well. And again, they use their patagium to glide tree to tree. So Colobos and Dragos, are they natural enemies? If you haven't noticed, their habitats and niches overlap, especially in Malaysia. So it is likely that they do come in contact with each other due to deforestation especially. However, due to their different diets, they are unlikely to compete for food resources, as the Colobos eat plants and the Dracos eat insects. Their territory may still be up for debate as well, though, because both creatures are technically territorial. Both Colobos and Dracos will pick a couple trees that they claim as their territory and will defend. So in conclusion, the gliding locomotion appears to be a useful tool for life amongst the canopy, and there are very many different types of gliding adaptations. You can see here the Colobos versus the Dracos, very different. And a word on conservation. While neither Colobos nor Dracos are considered endangered at the moment, it's important to realize the implications that deforestation can have. Without rainforests, we could lose these species, which is really sad because Colobos are only just now being recognized for their uniqueness. So in conclusion, protect our forests, and thank you for listening.